Hey, welcome everybody. It's Taps Tuesday, and I think most of you know the drill by now. I'm going to introduce our guest, and if you have questions for our guest, you just need to put them in the chat thread, and I would be glad to pose them to our guest. If you want to speak to our guest and like have a convo, that's totally possible too. Just let us know. I think that's very rare here at Taps Tuesday, but it's possible. You're welcome to chime in if you'd like. Um, let's see on your donations. So as we give away stuff from great prominent companies in our field, please know that we are doing everything as a nonprofit organization, and we are having a full fellowship music festival for 8 fellows. I don't know if you knew that, Casey.
I
Oh,
knew it.
shoot, I gave you away. I gave you away. Hold on. Um, Before I introduce our guest, I do also have to thank Mapex Majestic Percussion. Um, they're donating the coolest thing. They've been incredibly supportive. I know they've been supportive of our guest because I once saw his picture. I went to PASIC and I was in that big instrument room, and there was this giant picture of Casey doing like one of these, and it was shocking. I mean, talk about like fame, like really achieving fame, and I was jealous.
I got to find the picture of you mocking it though.
Oh yeah, if you can
That
find that.
that might
So
take a while.
yeah, the point that I'm making is we appreciate your support, and we also want to thank Majestic specifically. Harry, what are we giving away tonight?
So it's a Majestic 14 by 5 Prophonic in walnut. So it's got their multi-link strainer and they're very great drums. I've played a few of them, but that's their sort of orchestral flagship drum, I think.
Right on. So, yeah, so please be with us in the room. And if you're here, we'll enter you in a raffle for this drum. We'll be spinning a wheel, a figurative wheel, I guess, two-dimensional wheel. Our guest tonight is one of the first faculty members that participated in TAPS. He's a composer, he's a performer, he's director of Percussion Studies at James Madison University. He's got the fastest hands in all of Utah for certain, um,
In the office, at least.
at least in his own office.
Yeah. Right
I
now,
want,
until one of my students comes in.
all right.
Yeah.
This is Casey Cangelosi. Casey, how are you? It's great to see you.
Hey, buddy, how's it going, Ted?
Great, man. Have you played this majestic drum?
You know what? Actually, I have mine. Let me show you mine.
Oh, you've got it.
So, this is mine,
Yeah.
and this actually was one of the first floor model prototypes they made, and it was funny one day. The Majestic folks, as we all do, just catching up with them at PASIC and all of that. Um, Chris Hankis said, "Oh yeah, we have these new drums, but we decided not to show them yet because we're not sure if they're ready." And everyone's kind of asking about them, and they kind of took me in one of their storage rooms and said, "Oh, we're just kind of showing this to some of our artists, and just let me take it home." So that I've had that one since kind of before the drum was finished, and I think it's actually quite a bit more refined now. I mean, it seems like it's a really solid drum. One of my students who's actually in here right now, Shane, he just won one at a competition, and he just recorded a piece on it, and yeah, it's just yeah, I think they've done a really good job.
Yeah, I think that they're doing excellent work in getting into this line, this instrument level, for what we're trying to do. You also wrote a piece
Mhm.
for the introduction of one of those drums, right?
Well, one of my yeah, good memory. Yeah, one of my kind of more popular pieces. I have a little snare drum series called Meditations, and Meditation One was for that drum and for PASIC premiere and kind of like the releasing of that drum. And it's a piece that starts. You play a lot on the rim for a long time. You do a lot of stick clicks and a lot of and the first thing you do is you just like flick the head with your finger, and it just takes a while before you're really playing the drum. It's sort of this escalation from rim, stick, effects, fingers to like finally actual traditional playing. And it kind of, it's something that started in my head as a bit of a joke and then actually kind of formed into a cool idea because it's like this little impetus at the edge that kind of starts small and ends up really big and grows to like a place of arrival, like a meditation. So initially it was like, oh, okay, I'm imagining Chris Henkes and Jeff, our friends at Majestic, like sitting in the audience going like, okay, the rim sounds good. Okay, good. The rim sounds good. Finally going like, dude, hit the drum. Like we need everyone to hear the drum.
Yeah,
So,
Jeff Mulvihill's going like, he's going to all the guys, wait till you hear Casey play
exactly.
this drum. This thing just sings. You're gonna love it. And then
You
like
know,
a minute into the piece, he's like white knuckles on the chair. He's like, oh my God, this piece is not
exactly.
gonna play the drum.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
What
kind of
well,
your humor too.
well, exactly. And what's fun, I think, is that it started with that little humorous idea of like, oh, I really want to do that to them. But then like it's actually like a pretty serious piece. It turned into a piece that actually has a form that the second piece also takes, and they're always going to kind of take this form of like just really gradually shifting from point A in a piece to point B.
Yeah, yeah, I love
So
that.
it's fun.
I love that piece, but I think I've told you this, Casey, and I'll pose it to you as a question. Have you ever heard someone play any of your pieces as well as you play them?
Just you. Remember that time you played all those? Just you. So
Well, we did some
yeah,
great duets together in Australia. Yeah, I should mention
it's
that.
true.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, my friendship with Casey, we've traveled together to Maine for taps in Maine, and we've also been in Adelaide, Australia,
Mhm.
together, where we hosted a taps there. I think we did two there, and
We did two there, and I've been to Long Beach a couple times.
yeah, you're pretty much the number one faculty person at taps. So why don't we have you coming this year? What's going on?
I, it's a good question. Yeah, talk
We'll
to
get
your
to the bottom of
bosses.
that.
Yeah,
But I do say about your music, like I love hearing you play your music, but I've had some students attempt white knuckle stroll and it wasn't pleasant.
it's
It's just
hard.
it's hard and I feel like you've got a very specific and unique style of playing that it basically guides your writing. Would you say that's true?
I think that's true, and I think that style has, of course, changed. But during, I think the early years, and especially the marimba stuff, in my mind was always like, hey, can we kind of elevate our, or how far can we go with our virtuosity, and can we get, I don't know, can we stand toe to toe with the Prokofiev piano concertos? We can't, by the way, is the answer. But can,
Yeah.
but yeah, considering like the concertos out there and things like that, and I mean our instrument's still growing, and I think it's a lot of those pieces and their difficulty. It's just my 2 cents in a steady development that's been going for many years because it's good to test the I don't know to see what kind of pieces we'll take and how technical stuff can get. I mean, if violin got to go through Vivaldi, Paganini, and piano got to go through Liszt and Rachmaninoff, just like pushing virtuosity, it seems natural we would have to go through that too. And who knows? Like maybe the pieces won't stick around, but I think it's just one little one little coin toss in that whole like exploration.
It's just so it's so funny for I'm a little older than you, Casey, as you know. But like I played Yellow After the Rain to get into Boston University. If it's like if you're trying to get into a major music school these days, you can't really do that anymore. And it's amazing how much the repertoire has evolved into something completely different than what it was.
Well, and I wonder, yeah, we talk about this a lot, and yeah, I kind of wonder how. Well, and it has already happened at some schools, and of course, with all teachers, pretty much. I mean, there aren't many teachers that are able to teach you literally everything. If you come to me for steel pan lessons, I'll say like, cool, let's figure this out together. I mean, if you come to me for tabla lessons, I'll first tell you to go study with someone who knows how to do that. And then if you still refuse, I'll say, well, I'm happy to like explore it with you, but
Wow.
I don't do that. You know, so I wonder if percussion is becoming more specialized all the time, and
I thought
schools are
you were
starting to
drawing the
take it. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you were drawing the line at tabla, like you would say, okay, go find someone else. But you're actually saying, I'll explore that with you.
Yeah, you can pay me to read about it with you. Sure.
Yeah, see,
No,
I don't.
no, I've never done that, but you see what I'm saying.
No, I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I
Yeah.
will not do that
Right.
because
And we
I
shouldn't.
just I think we have to accept there's like the world of percussion is like we can never get there to all of it and be experts at all of it. So it's like I think we have to accept our areas of specialization.
Yeah. Well, and we understand that, but you know, I think you know, maybe not, but you've seen those job searches at universities where you play what you can do and what you can do well, and then there's always that one person on the committee that's like, well, yeah, they were good, but why didn't she play any, you know, hand percussion?
Yeah.
You know, it's like the musicologist is going like, oh, well, why didn't they play? I don't know. I really would have liked to hear some hand drums. And then
Oh yeah.
the jazz professor's like, well, yeah, that was really good, but I didn't hear any jazz. And like, you know, it's like, well, ask for specifically what you want, because not every percussionist can do all of that. And I think that is increasing, you know, like
Yeah.
it is getting, we're getting more and more specialized all the time.
You did it for your audition for James Madison. You just played like xylophone excerpts, right? You did like Porgy,
That's
Colas,
right.
polka.
That's right. That's right. Well, not only did I play Porgy, but I played it like 5 times and like different styles and different tempos. And
That's
even though they
cool.
asked me like, "Hey, can you please play something else?" I like still played Porgy again because
And
I
it
and
worked.
it worked. Yeah,
You were persistent.
yeah. I said, if you don't hire me, I'll sue you. That's what I did, and that worked. Yeah, I've
That's
learned a lot. I've learned a lot from you.
Yeah, this is a hot take from Casey Cangelosi.
Yeah,
Just
I'm glad.
walk in there. It's like a Jerky Boys skit. It's like, give me the job. I sell cars. Yeah.
None of these people know what jerky boys
No,
are.
they don't.
They don't.
We have our first question coming in, which relates to how only Casey can play Casey's music well. It comes from the great Josh Jones. Hey, Josh. Hey,
Josh.
yeah, it's Josh in the house. Uh, Casey, any tips on working on finger speed? I feel like I've hit my limit both physically and idea-wise and need some expert advice. Casey's the guy.
Well, dude, I can't help you, Josh. I mean, you're already. I could ask you the same thing. I feel like, you know. Okay, so here's Josh, one of the best at this, also wanting to know about it, and I feel like just the fact that all the rest of you, just the fact that Josh is asking is such a lesson. I mean, you know, the fact that people who are developed and professional in their own right still say like, hey, I want to go further, I want to get better, I want to learn whatever trick Casey has that I don't know, I want to learn. I mean, that is like a huge lesson and a huge takeaway, and just like a really good way to always be, you know, like just always try to be like that. It's why they say stuff like, you know, be a student for life and try to never stop absorbing. I mean, it's why I started my podcast, is so I could keep learning. It's why I also will jump in on these interviews that TED hosts, and I'll jump in on the master classes. I mean, there's so much to learn, but I feel like, you know, the something I did that I know not a lot of people do, for finger control and finger speed, and you all can try this if you have sticks. One of my teacher students told me this when I was in undergrad degree, or actually maybe when I was in high school. But one of my teacher, my childhood teachers, is a brilliant guy named Dennis Griffin from Logan, Utah, where I grew up. Composer, timpanist, fantastic percussionist and teacher. One of his students once said, you know, a good just like warm up exercise, take your regular grip and choke to the tips, okay? And then you're gonna slap your forearms like this, right? And you really want to strike them like you strike, like you're striking an instrument. And it should kind of feel similar to playing. But the nice thing about doing it up high like this, where you're grabbing the tips, is you're getting all the weight of the butt of the stick. So Ted, you're screwing up. You're embarrassing yourself. Turn the stick around. And now go all the way to the tip. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You guys can mute just hide Ted's screen, so you learn correct. But go ahead and just like taka 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 taka, and do it really strong and really loud. And you can do it fast and loud, and try to really feel a workout. You'll feel it in your forearms.
Wow, man.
So you should really hear like da 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 da. And when you feel like, yeah, you can do that really like with really big stick height like this, try it like this up high so that gravity's going against you.
I'm losing my mind right now.
It's just,
Josh is loving this.
yeah, it's kind of cool,
Loving it.
but it really helps with whatever that, that how do you clap with one hand question of like, well, like, can you clap with one hand? It's like, well, I mean, kind of. You can like, you can just like slap your fingers closed. It helps that. And Josh, I don't know if it helps finger speed, but I just know it's something I did a lot. I feel like it activates the action that helps you do that. I feel like the finger action that does influence, I don't think it's 100% what like finger speed is, but I feel like it's triggering that mechanism. So I feel like that's the only thing I've done that I haven't heard of other people talk about much. So if that's news to you guys, or that's new, then great. Like that's hopefully like, one little
I think
contribution.
that is big news to all of us. I've never seen you demonstrate that. What about that Jojo Mayer thing where you go like individual fingers? Can you do
I
that?
mean, I can't really do that. Not
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
I think I understand it, but it's one of those things like, oh, well, if I were 19 again, I would probably figure that out. But I can't anymore.
So yeah, we talked about how your music is in sometimes it's born out of some things that techniques that you're playing with, and we're going to get to some new pieces that you're working on that I think are departures from that. But a question comes from Dr. Patrick Moore. Hi, Dr. Moore. He says, "What is your thought process when starting to write a new percussion piece?"
Yeah, sure. I think different pieces kind of have, of course, have different, what's the word? Different, reasons to be written, right? Like Ted mentioned that virtuosic piece called White Knuckle Stroll, and we talked a little about that meditation piece, and I think they have two kind of different reasons to exist. I think White Knuckle Stroll is exclusively to just show off and try to be really flashy, chops, chops, chops. Let me show you what I can do. It's a good piece in that it does that, but it's not really good for anything else. It's not. I don't consider it a great piece of mine. I think meditation, which Ted also mentioned, that's a better piece, more cleverly written. I think it does more things other than just showcase chops. So I think the key is just having a goal as far as like what you want the thing to do. And I feel like a lot of times we kind of get paralysis by analysis in that we think the big result and the big picture is so has to be so complicated, and really I think it shouldn't. Like you should kind of be able to sum up what a piece is about in one word. Like what's Beethoven 5 about? Well, it's about overcoming, it's triumphing over one's struggle. It's like that simple. It's like, yeah,
That's
of
four
course.
words.
Yeah, that was a lot of words. That was way too many words.
But it's good. I see your point. And so then other times you're writing a piece, that you're saying, this is going to be a chop out kind of thing, and I'm going to show all these cool techniques. But other times, I know some of your music in which you're thinking it's groove based,
Mhm.
which it kind of in a different way than some of your snare drum solo works,
Yeah,
like
sure.
some drum set stuff.
New drum set piece, of course. I mean, I think that piece too is So title is autodidact, and I see there's a question coming up about that one too. But just the concept of being a self-learner, and that's what that means. And so I think, yeah, as far as the thought process, I think it's really helpful when you have a specific like message you want to convey. And then if you can say, okay, I have the specific message I want to convey, you can start to draw your content from that message and say like, okay, well, how am I gonna construct that? How am I gonna build that? And then it sort of starts to feel like the piece writes itself. It's really, really hard when it's totally open and you don't have any restrictions at all. It's like when someone commissions you and they tell you, hey, I want it to be for this instrumentation, I want it to be this length, I want it to have, and they start naming the constraints. The constraints for me, and also a lot of composers I talk to, I think they're very, very helpful.
Yeah.
So you have parameters to go within. So I think if someone else doesn't set those parameters for you, you set them yourself. You set them for yourself, and you say what this piece is going to be about, and that will kind of restrain where things are going.
So in the case of autodidact, you were thinking the title was guiding how you were writing, like
Yeah,
about
that's
self-learning and
yeah,
discovery.
that's exactly right. Like the title for me comes first, and it may not be the exact word, but it may be like, okay, I know what it means. I know I just need to find the word or the phrase that is going to convey that. But I do know what it's about, and I'll often on my sketches, instead of the title, I'll just write like self-learner or be your own teacher. Of course, that's not the title, but that's what it means. That's what I need to somehow translate into a title. So the whole time I'm writing it, and this is a long piece. I mean, this piece is like almost 28 minutes long, and it took me probably about a year to really write. But the whole time I was thinking, okay, it's all about this idea and this message, and that's what all the content is going to somehow contribute to that one idea.
Would you be willing to share some of that? Because I
Yeah,
imagine some people, it sounds like Connor knows it, but I think most of us probably haven't heard it in its entirety.
yeah, of course. We probably don't want to listen to 27 minutes, right?
No, I shouldn't say entirety. Maybe even give us a couple choice
Yeah,
spots or minutes.
yeah, maybe like some hot licks. I know you like hot licks.
I'm a big fan of hot licks, and
Okay.
that's pretty much why I've invited you to Taps all
Yeah,
along.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Well,
Thank you
man,
for providing that.
there's a metronome in this, so I don't want you to get triggered by school
Oh man, thank you. Yeah, you know how much I
or
hate metronomes.
or triggered by teaching.
Well, there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's see. All right. Let me figure this out here. Okay. So there's score. Here is piece.
1, 2, 3.
So hopefully I do all the settings for screen sharing well and all of that. I'll make sure my original sound is on. And what else? I'll have the score on one side, so if it's coming in kind of muddy for you all or the video's not clear, great. I think we're mostly here for the score anyway.
All right, cool.
So let's see. Let's move us aside. So yeah, here it is. And yeah, let's look a little at it. It's for playback and drum set. Ted, why don't you just stop me if this sounds bad or we need to adjust anything, all right?
Yeah, I think probably as with most Zoom, there's a little latency on the video, which we'll just deal with, right?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. If the licks don't seem hot, you gotta tell me.
I'll let you know immediately.
Just
Yeah.
yell abort.
I've got a gong in the room, so when you hear the gong,
Yeah, if we need it, I'll follow your lead.
yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Okay. All right. Here we go. So yeah, here we go. The metronome is on the bottom, and drum set is where you think it is. So here we go. Maybe we should go back to zooming on university Zoom only, because apparently I still don't know how to do this. What do you think?
I struggle with it every week.
Man. Okay. Here we go.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2,
Casey, I'm afraid if we keep going, we're going to go through the whole piece.
Yeah, we got to get to one little thing coming up.
Oh, keep it going.
Yep, almost
Go,
there.
go, go.
That was it. We were almost there.
I just needed to wait for it.
4, 5, 2, 2, 2.
Unbelievable.
So the I wanted to get all the way there because I think something I'm kind of interested in lately is kind of like long form pieces, and it's hard to do that with solos. It's a little easier to do that with playback, but one of my students in the room, Will Alderman's in there in a group, and he said, I finally, a few of us went down to the library and we just said okay, let's really watch and listen to the whole thing because it's long. It's almost 30 minutes, and it's not exactly an easy listen. I mean, that metronome is relentless, and it's kind of not a super friendly piece. It's a really friendly concept. But Will, I think, really hit it on the head. He said, it's really long, and I don't love it the whole time. I don't know if he said that exactly, but he said, I think by the end, though, it does really, it needs to be that long. It does need to have all those ingredients, because by the end, that music you just heard, the music really changes, and it really, really alternates into something completely different, and the metronome kind of finally disintegrates and disappears. And the whole idea is that, this thing that you listen to and kind of obey, your whole career, eventually, it kind of seeps into you, and you digest it and you spit it back out, and you kind of trade existence with it for a little while until eventually, actual music kind of comes out of it.
It's extraordinary, man. It's
thanks.
really amazing. How do you program the Dr. Beat
Right.
MIDI track? How do you do that?
Sure. So another fun thing about this that I think it does decently, and a reason why it needs to be long is pacing. I think matters so much. It's back to the question about how do you start a new piece? It's you have your idea, which again can kind of be summed up in one word, and then you kind of start drawing your ingredients, and then once you kind of decide what all your ingredients are going to be, it's just about stretching them and pacing them long enough so that the thing sounds cohesive and that the thing has an impact. So I thought something this one does really well is it takes the metronome, and for a long time it just is 1, 2, 3, 4. And you've probably seen drum set solos, and if you haven't, check some out. Drum set solo with Dr. Beat. It's kind of a common thing drummers will do. They'll solo to a Dr. Beat, and it's really fun because they'll do this mixed meter or polymetric stuff over a 1, 2, 3, 4 count, and they'll play these really, really amazing, real drum set players. I'm a decent drum set player, but I'm not it's not a showcase thing for me. I'm decent, but real drummers, that's something they'll really do. So I kind of started with the idea okay, well, what if we kind of maybe just let people think I'm doing one of those solos. So it goes on for several minutes with just that, the metronome being 1, 2, 3, 4 only, until there's a 5/8 bar. So yeah, right here. So there's this 1 5/8 bar where 4 is skipped. So we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And if you're kind of zoning out like you probably should be, it looks like that's at the 2-minute mark. You may not notice. It may just kind of sound wait a minute, what happened there? Did something happen? And then it goes back to 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's a short little 4 right here, a 3/16 bar. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and it kind of just starts twitching a little bit. And then, slowly you kind of let the cat out of the bag that you're not just listening to a straight Dr. Beat, you're listening to a specific, very specific programmed sequence of beats. So, answer to your question is just with a sampler. So you sample the sounds 1, 2, 3, 4, sample the ah, all the Dr. Beat sounds that she makes, and then plug them into a sequencer so you can program them like exactly where to go and exactly where to be. And once you've sampled them, it's quite easy.
Really, it's unbelievable. Did you make any mistakes in this take?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a lot of mistakes. There's also, I think there's also like a lot of like they're okay mistakes. Like it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I hit a kick instead of a hi hat, or I did one thing that. But I think the piece allows for that. It's like, hey, you should kind of play this, but if something else fits better, it's okay.
And there's moments in the notation where, like, I think I noticed this in like bar 222, in which you just have straight eighths, but you were playing a pattern across the kit. Like, so are you sometimes, maybe that's in your notes before the piece, but it seems like you're taking some liberties there.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yep, a lot of those. So, yep, just go ahead and play straight eights, but go ahead and move them, wherever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a female colleague at Long Beach State who mentioned to me that her Siri voice is male. And she says, I would never have a female voice. And I said, oh, why? And she said, well, you realize that society is used to women being in positions of, at your service, as in a waitress or a server. And so men are more predisposed. They appreciate a female voice because it feels like a more sensitive at your service thing.
Oh.
But she needs to hear this piece because the Dr. Beat is absolutely telling you what to do. So it's kind of turning that whole argument on its ear.
Cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Never thought of that. I've always had people say, like Dr. Beat. It just sounds like it's either it's an angry mom like yelling at you to practice because yeah, she doesn't sound nice. Sounds mean.
It's effective. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very effective. So
Yeah.
this is incredible, Casey, and we have a bunch of questions, but I think one of them that this leads to is tell us about your origins in music. And I mean, I've always said this about you. You pretty much defied what a lot of your teachers, the direction they were hopefully trying to send you in. So tell us a little bit about where you started, how you started. Obviously, I know you played drum set growing up, but how you came to becoming a composer and writing such eclectic stuff.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. Drum set was the start, and I probably similar to you. I mean, you have a rock band history. You still are in a band.
Yeah.
That was sort of the beginning for me. It was garage bands around the neighborhood. We had a whole nice little community, and Dustin played guitar, Tom sang, Johnny was like the best, had actually studied, and we had all little iterations of bands, and we played a lot, and that kept me playing drum set, of course. So I think our MTV generation, so that's like super old millennials like myself, I'm right on the cusp, millennial and Gen Xers, that was like the MTV generation. So yeah, older siblings, a lot of music in the house, MTV on the screen. I mean, like, I think probably, most kids watching MTV, oh, drums are so cool, or guitar is so cool, and mine happened to be drums, and I got lessons from a kid down the block, and I was terrible, and I, didn't practice, but I was also like 6 or something. I mean, I was really, really young. And my dad was a math professor at Utah State University, still is, and he said, okay, well, like Casey seems serious about this. Let's find a teacher. And luckily, the professor there, the same guy I mentioned before, Dennis Griffin, he was taking students from the community in addition to his teaching load. And he's like, after, I don't know how he did it. I mean, after his workday, he stuck around and taught, till late in the day. And he taught the kids from the community. And I think he had a pretty big, robust studio that way, and a really big studio just in the community. I believe he still does that now. And so I was a part of that, and he was a composer. And he encouraged me to write. He always let me play my little pieces at our recitals. We do studio recitals, and the young kids would play, and the college kids would play. And what else?
So you were writing before you were 10.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, screwing around, and but I was allowed to screw around,
Yeah.
and that value stuck all the way through my first degree. Where I went to Utah State University, which isn't a program, maybe you all have heard of, but it was a good program. It was totally a good program. I mean, I learned so much. But one thing that I think is really important about it not being like a Juilliard or a Eastman or a really, super duper famous program is that everything was kind of encouraged, and there wasn't this divide between composer and performer. Like I feel like at the master's programs I went to, everyone was so serious that it was, hey, if you're going to be a performer, you got to just learn your excerpts, start auditioning, start competing. You don't have time to do this other stuff. You don't have time to play around with this drum set and tape crap. I mean, that's neat, but you don't have time for that. Don't do that. So I feel like the divide in really, serious programs, in quotations, those musician roles for good reason, I mean, are very like, well no, you got to just do that. I mean, you're never going to survive. If you want to be a composer, you better just be composing. If you want to be a performer, you better just be performing. And my undergrad wasn't like that. There wasn't that type of designation. It was just like, oh cool, you're doing that, go ahead, go for it, see what happens.
So in your next degree, did you ever entertain the idea of like, yeah, maybe I should like learn these excerpts and like start trying to take orchestra auditions?
I did, because I thought, oh, I want to be a teacher, and
Why are you laughing?
I want to be invited to TAPS someday, so I better finally learn Porgy and Bess
Come on, Casey. Taps didn't
properly.
exist then.
I want to be eventually invited. So no, well, I thought like, well, yeah, it's such part of what we do. I gotta learn this stuff, and of course, because I think it applies everywhere. I mean, I've never thought I'll audition for an orchestra. I've just never. I love orchestra music. I think I would play well in an orchestra, but like I just don't see myself able to survive the audition circuit. That's what I always saw, and I certainly wasn't ready to give up on writing or the other like, kind of risky creative stuff I was doing instead. And the wonderful thing about my programs, I mean, even though they were so different, I mean, all of them were super encouraging. When I auditioned at Boston Conservatory and Rice University, I mean, they just said, oh yeah, keep doing that. That's like really good. But I was already like fairly decent at it. Pieces already were kind of getting some traction and going some places, and my teachers wisely said like, oh, it kind of looks like you've got something going. Keep doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember? Were you in the room when we had Nancy Zeltzman in a TAPS interview?
I don't think so, actually.
Oh yeah, she bashed you big time, man.
Oh yeah. No, yeah, absolutely.
No,
Yeah,
she loves your work, but she did. I mean, we went through a whole litany of different compositions. I even bashed a composition that she commissioned. Really embarrassing, but yeah, she said she likes your drum stuff better than your marimba stuff.
Yeah. I seem to get that from opposite folks. Like marimba say, oh, your drum stuff is so good. Drums people say, oh, your marimba stuff is so good. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think the
So
fact
nobody's
that you
happy.
Nobody's ever happy. The
Yeah.
fact that you can do both is pretty amazing, because most people writing something like autodidact are not capable of writing harmony on four-mallet marimba.
Sure. Well, and I think maybe it's worked in my favor a little bit, because if my marimba stuff isn't good enough to make Nancy Zeltzman happy, and my drum stuff isn't good enough to make Dave Weckl happy, like, hey, well, all the rest of us are kind of below those two anyway in our critique and our ability, so maybe it fits right into a market that's like, hey, I can't do what Dave Weckl can do, but maybe I can play this thing.
Well, I think it's clear that you've been breaking the mold in terms of your compositions and changing the landscape of it. So I know you're not apologetic to anybody that doesn't love particular pieces. And your pieces, you hit a lot of different moods and styles. And I think this piece, Autodidact, is kind of a departure. Although you had a piece with a fan, like your drum set, and there was like a fan. What piece is that?
That piece is called Fanatic.
Oh, that's good.
Shorter, simpler. Yeah, thanks. Fan's cool. I use that trick in a couple of pieces, and that's probably in part having to do so much solo stuff. I mean, my career's been so much just kind of the solo recital platform. But yeah, you click a fan, you put it below a set of wind chimes, and it seems like the wind chimes just go on their own, and hopefully somebody's going like, "Well, how the hell are those wind chimes moving?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's important to go forward into what your career is now. I think it'd be really nice for you to talk a little bit about just a walkthrough for college teaching job applications and applying for those, because I think we've both discovered that it's very fulfilling and a rewarding um, career path to be an educator. But I think I had to learn a lot about if you're applying for jobs, what do you need to know? What do you need to say? How do you need to interview? And maybe if you could give us a couple things that you learned.
I think well, I think most of the things we really know, like you really want to be a strong player. You want to have really strong materials. You want to have stuff that if they Google you, they'll find you. I mean, I think there's a lot of no-brainers like that. Um, the days of I think it was Tony Cerrone told us on my podcast many years ago. I believe it was Tony Cerrone. I could be wrong, but he said, you know, and you've heard these stories before, like a student subbed with an orchestra and the director said, "Hey, your student was really good. You know, we think they'd be right for the position that we're going to open up,
Right.
and we want to make them a member of the symphony orchestra." And then the teacher says like, "Oh, well, hey, if you thought they were good, you should hear my other student." And then without even hearing the other student, they hire that other student. Like those days are just over. Like your awesome degree isn't enough anymore. Like you really, and your phone call isn't enough anymore. There's certainly those exceptions where, oh, my teacher pushed for me on my behalf and it that worked for me. But I think, yeah, you really have to show what you have to offer and show what you can do and show that you can produce and hopefully show that people might want to study with you, which today, the way you look at that as far as numbers on paper, it's your visibility.
Yeah.
You know, like are you visible? Are people paying attention to you? If the band director on the committee asked one of the percussionists at their school, "Hey, have you heard of this Ted Atkatz guy?" They would say like, "Oh yeah, I play with his signature sticks." You know, and then I mean that they're going to instantly go like, "Okay, kids know who this person is. That really matters." Like kids who we want to recruit are going to want to come here because we're going to hire that person. And then you're like really up on the list. That's very hard to do. You have to be Ted Atkatz to do that.
Well, but in your case, Casey, sorry to cut you off,
Yeah.
but you created, you mentioned if someone Googles your name, you want visibility. I feel like you're one of the primary people that utilized YouTube, and you created really good videos, 2 camera shoots or what have you, and you started getting hits and likes, and that was a big component of you being employable as a professor.
I think it really was, and I don't think anyone is gonna hire you based on how many like views or likes you have, but views and likes really do actually equate to like people seeing you, and those people are those students at that school. So, and of course there's other ways to do that. If you, and this happened for me, I used to clinic, luckily I would get invited to do clinics, and I got invited to do a lot. And I accepted pretty much all of them. I mean, I think it's worth a quick share. I'll just show everyone my calendar from some years ago. I've really slowed down since then just to kind of be a little more sane. But my calendar back in the days of like really grinding, and Ted, I mean, you're exactly right. Like these invitations came from just the email would ring or the phone would ring, and someone at a school usually would say, "Hey, my students want you to come visit us, and they play your pieces, and they have a lot of questions for you, and it's our year for guest artist or whatever,
Yeah.
and we want you to to come out." So yeah, even if you don't have a huge, I don't know, Instagram following, which I do not, Great. Maybe another way you're getting on everyone's radar is you have a killer clinic that everyone just wants to have. And I really worked hard to make really good clinics. I didn't just show up to these gigs and say, cool, these people want to hear from me. Well, okay, do you guys have any questions? What do you want to talk about? I like really tried to make really good clinics, and I was really, really proud of them. I mean, I still am very proud of what they were. And they were very, very good, and that made it spread a little further. People would say, "Hey, you should get Cangelosi. He is like a really, really good clinic about just musicianship and
Yeah.
how technique transfers into expression, and what expression is from a humanist standpoint, what it is from a analysis standpoint, blah 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 blah." So it spread that way. So I'm not saying, the only way to do it is to have like a, really strong digital presence, but I will say after making some hires, if you think, I tell my students this all the time, like if you think there's no point in making those, YouTube materials or whatever materials or your website, if you think there's no point in doing that because there already is so much of it out there and no one's going to find it and it's oversaturated, you're wrong. Like, I mean, I've seen applications from people where they just have like no content. Like, so many people you're up against actually aren't doing that. So it may look like there's no way you can stand out by doing that, but actually you still can. I mean, you still can. And even if you don't get a million views, well, hey, the people hiring you will Google you and they'll find it and they'll say like, hey, this person's good.
Yeah. I'm thank you for landing on the page in 2015 when you did the percussion seminar from
It is.
July so and so. I remember when I
I
first
need to
met you.
delete that.
Yeah, delete that.
Yeah.
You got off the plane and we were going to Long Beach, so you started like quoting West Coast rap, like Snoop Dogg, like straight away.
Hey, I mean that's what you teach there, right?
I knew we were going to be fast friends, and we
Yeah.
were.
Yeah.
What are your future plans here? What's the next composition going to be like?
I don't know. I don't really have an immediate, I got to do this anytime soon or anything. Everything moves a little slower for me lately, just with job and with family and everything. But I'm gonna work on a new piece by a friend here, Eric Genovan. I'm gonna work on his new piece. He wrote a killer percussion solo for me years ago called Hypernova that I recorded and have been performing, and he's written a new one, so I'm going to work on that this summer, and that might be enough right now, actually.
Yeah. So your schedule doesn't look anything like it did in 2011 through 2015.
No, no, I just don't have COVID's a big part of that, but also
Yeah.
I just ever since I had became a dad, it's just like, all right, we're just like backing down, backing down, backing down, and I mean, you can just see it go pew, like it just trickles down to very few things. I mean, I'm maybe doing 4 things this whole school year, and that's okay. Like I'm not someone who like loves to travel
Yeah.
and all that. I enjoy it fine, but I'm not like I'm surprisingly not like dying to get back into it.
Well, and also back in 2011, you didn't have your teaching position, so you were more freed up to do that kind of thing.
For sure. Yeah, yeah. I had a teaching position that had far less. I wasn't the director of a percussion area. I was an instructor at a smaller university. It was a lot easier to just get away.
Yeah. We've got one question from Instagram. Do you have any advice for someone trying to rebuild their chops after a few years off?
Man, I would just go to the expert. Ted, you're the oldest guy I know.
Well, you start
How do
here.
you, yeah.
Start here and you do this, and then once you get it really happening, and
Yeah.
working, like listen to how good this sounds,
That's so good.
really good, and then you do this,
That's right.
and then you stand on your head so that gravity is working against you,
Dude, you
then you
got
really
it.
strengthen it.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good question. I mean, how do you get back into it? I mean, I haven't never taken that big of a gap. I've played currently for probably the last year or so, I've played the least marimba I've ever played in my life. So picking that back up, I can feel like, oh man, yeah, I do really, really feel out of shape. But yeah, I don't have a ton of experience for it, but I just imagine like anything else. I mean, I imagine it's the same thing as when you're just out of shape from not playing for a week or two. You just have to slowly graduate back into it, and just little by little, and don't do too much too soon, because that's how you get hurt. And if it's been a really long time, if it's been years and years, I mean, I know, like, I finally am starting to feel like an old person, and yeah, like, your body changes when you're older. So just more reason to go really slow, and take it easy, and play easy things for a longer period of time, and play harder things for a very little time. And just listen to what your body's telling you, and yeah, that's all I could really say, I think.
Yeah, if you're working up to 6 hours a day of practice, you can't start with 6 hours a day of practice. It's got to be 1 hour consistently and work your way up to it, because otherwise you're going to get injured.
Yeah, yeah.
And
exactly.
and just having the mental fortitude to, like, be focused for that amount of time, I think that's something you have to work up to as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I think just be patient. A student of mine switched grips. He went from Stevens grip to Burton grip, and it was like kind of a tough decision. Aren't I going to lose all this ground? And I'm telling you, like, 1 year though of doing it right, and he's as good as ever. I mean, he sounds wonderful. And he's no more pains, no more aches, no more anything, no more anything. He changed what was wrong, and he did it the right way. And I mean, it flew by like I don't even remember it. I mean, it was 1 year, and he's like amazing now.
Yeah. And it's also amazing, you're mentioning, like, getting older and your body changes. Your brain is not as capable of, like, connecting those synapses to learn a new technique. And most of the people in this room, in their teens or 20s, it's so much easier when you're 20 than when you're 40, whatever you are, Casey. Are you 40 yet?
49.
No, you're not.
49.
No, you're not.
Just kidding. I'm 40.
You're 40. See, I nailed it.
Yeah.
And you're going to give me a hard time?
Yeah.
Come on, man. Yeah, 40 is young, man. I would go there in a heartbeat. I have to do this again, and the reason is because I didn't share sound. And the sound is really important.
Oh.
So give me a moment, if you will. I'm going to share sound, and now we're going to look at this wheel. Check this out, Casey. Have you seen
Holy
this?
cow. How much did you pay to get that?
Oh, this is like serious tech. Taps, by the way, I forgot to wear my Tap Sucks t-shirt in your honor.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I got news for you, Casey. Taps doesn't suck anymore, man.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
That was also the first thing you said when you arrived at Taps in Maine. You just
So
go, "Taps
seriously,
sucks."
does everyone get a virus after this thing is done? What it's doing? Like, how many
That's
people
disgusting.
How much spyware are we all getting right now?
It's not enough to completely shut down your computer, but it'll annoy you.
Okay.
Yeah, so congratulations.
Okay.
We're going to spin this thing, and we want to thank Majestic again. This is for a Prophonic, I believe, Harry, if you're still there, is this a 5x14 drum?
Yep, that's right.
That's right. And this is a new model. I have not played this drum, so apparently Harry has, and Casey, maybe you've seen it, and George has, like, all these drums. I've never seen it, so if any of you guys from Majestic are watching this, I would love to see one of these drums. I'd like to play it, because I'm working on my game here.
Uh-huh.
Let's spin this wheel. All right, it looks like it's Diego Savaleta. Congratulations, Diego.
Hey, way to go.
Diego, if you would, put your email address in the chat thread, and Harry's going to write that down. And congratulations, it's super cool, and I hope you enjoy it. Please let me know what it's like, what it sounds like. I'm dying to know. Casey, this has been awesome. I miss hanging with you in person. This pandemic thing really hurt our opportunities to do that.
Yeah, and our piece is really suffering a little bit. Our Corporal duo.
The Corporal duo is something that I don't think anyone in this room is familiar with, but we've done some extended techniques with that piece and turned it into a duet. And that was done in Adelaide, Australia, where I think we started working on that.
That's right. We got to finish it.
What time do you think it was? I think we were super jet lagged, so it might have been like 4 in the morning.
It might have
when we
been 4 in
started
the
that.
morning. Yeah,
Yeah.
Nick Mancini was just getting up from from the last day, I think.
Everyone was on a slightly different sleep schedule. I remember
Yep.
that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Oh man, well let's go back there. Thank you all for joining us, and Casey, thank you so much. It's always great to hear you speak, and this new piece is amazing.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, hey, thanks everybody. Nice of you to come, and yeah, thanks, Ted. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, please drop in on future TAPS Q&As because it's always fun seeing you.
You betcha, buddy.
Thanks again to Majestic. Thanks to all of you for your support, and we'll see you very soon. Take care.
Later.